Commissioner Pultz, can you hear us here in the room?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, good morning, Commissioner Meyer. We can hear you okay in the room too. Would you be able to accept joining as a panelist? It'll just make it easier for us to move you to closed session at the end of the meeting.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, everybody, it's 8 a.m. according to the iPad. I'll call the meeting to order for the Madison Metropolitan Sewer District on September 11th, 2025. Welcome to all of our guests. Cassie, could you go through the virtual meeting guidance?
Good morning, Commissioners, members of the public, and staff. To help us have a smooth meeting, I'm going to review just a few decorum rules for all. While the Commission and staff are in person, we are still offering a Zoom option so members of the public can attend. If you're attending virtually and would like to speak, you can do so during appearances by the public. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and streamed live on YouTube, and the public chat has been disabled, but you can still send messages to the host if need be. Finally, Commissioners, please use your microphones while speaking and make sure your voice is directed towards the mic. When you're not speaking, please ensure your mic is off so others can utilize the mics. And as a reminder, only 3 of the table mics can be live at a time. Also, please state your name before speaking for those who may be joining us via Zoom. Those are the decorum rules of the District Commission. Thank you for following them, and let's have a great meeting.
Okay, thank you, Cassie. Bill, you have an announcement?
Bill Walker, Deputy Executive Director. As I assume you've noticed, some of the items in the packet have a little bit of a different format. A couple of the items have a different format for financial impact. Doing a little bit of experimentation there with how we present that information. And then I took the liberty on, I think, 2 of my items to do a more simplified agenda report structure. I'm just sort of playing around here to see if you have any thoughts on whether those things are clearer, less clear, helpful. I'd love to hear those not in this meeting, but at any point afterwards, or send me a note, or we can talk about it later.
Okay, thank you, Bill. I did notice that. Let's see, any appearances by the public? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar where we have approval of the minutes of the 28th of August, capital fund cash statement, Sparrow Corners residential subdivision in McFarland, relocation order and determination of necessity 9 Springs Valley Interceptor capacity improvements, transaction amount for legal services, abatement of 2026 property tax levy, and ratification of the final purchase for the 1701-1705 Moreland Road. Came in a few $100s more than anticipated, so they're coming back for that. Do we have any comments or questions before we get a motion? Seeing none, Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Motion by Lytle.
Motion by Commissioner Lytle, second by
Commissioner Freeze.
Commissioner Freeze. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Abstain,
Commissioner
Clark.
Commissioner Clark abstains, he was absent. So we have enough to carry the motion. So that motion on the consent calendar is approved. We move to topics, review of proposals to award a contract level 1 and 2 IT support services. Ms. Culver?
Hello, Bettina Culver, District Technology Manager. All right. Got it. So today we're going to talk about IT support services, the selection process that was used, the vendor that we selected, and then discuss future positioning. And we'll go through next steps and some questions. So our first kind of graph here is really showing district IT staff on the left, and it shows the percentage of their time that they're spending on non-discretionary work. That's support work, the work that we must do. And then you can see that we're spending, the split is approximately 70% is non-discretionary and 30% is discretionary work. As compared to the graph on the right, you can see that really the industry standard there is 80% non-discretionary work and 20%. So almost a flip of what the district IT staff is doing today. So to kind of tackle that, we wanted to pursue an IT support services contract. And the goals there really are to enable transition to more of the industry standard, where the majority of the staff is focused on discretionary and not support work, handing off support work, if you will. Really going towards an experienced provider that can deliver support with experienced resources. It's kind of the fastest solution that we can put in place to augment IT staff. And really the most important thing on here is this supports ERP. ERP requires that approximately 75% of staff capacity be focused on that. And currently with the majority of their time, 70% focusing on the non-discretionary work, they don't have the capacity to do that. We have to get the support off their plate.
Bettina, can you just explain quickly and maybe give an example or two of support versus delivery for those who are not IT savvy?
Sure. So support work is really about keeping our systems healthy, running, so that business partners in the district can do their jobs, getting our regulatory reports out, ensuring that we can run payroll, all the hardware that they use, that they're up and running to help them do their job. When those systems fail or they're not available, we have to help them get them running again so that they can do their job. Delivery work is more of the enhancements, the modernization efforts, if you will, of systems. ERP is one of those efforts. We're putting in a brand new ERP system and we have to deliver that. That's implementation work. Is that helpful? So the last kind of bullet there is speaking to that modernization efforts. We really want to be in a position with district IT staff that we're supporting future system modernization efforts beyond ERP. And putting in this kind of IT support services contract allows us to have that capacity to continue to modernize our system. So our evaluation team, you can see that that's there. We had a cross-representation across senior leaders and some IT folks that helped with this evaluation. Kind of the process that we went through. We put out an RFP for bid. We had 15 responses. Most responses were over 100 pages, so a lot of reading for our scoring committee to get through those responses. From that, we shortlisted 3 vendors, and we went to an interview stage and kind of also evaluated cost. The interview was composed of 6 questions, most of them multi-part. So we had up to 7 multi-part questions for them to answer. Each interview was 2 hours. And to facilitate this conversation, what we did is we collected our support demand and we sent it over to the provider. And this allowed them to do 2 things. We had interview questions that required them to analyze the data and give responses. And it also allowed them to validate the cost. So what support model would you put in place? How many resources to handle this type of demand going forward? During this kind of round of scoring, we had 2 that performed well in the interview, and we proceeded to score them on cost. 1 did not do well in the interview, and they did not get a cost score. And so we moved forward with 2 finalists to the next round. The next round was really terms in the contract. We're looking for terms that would incentivize, ensure that they were providing good support to the district. And we're trying to see who would align first and give us the terms that we needed. Also leveraged references. So part of the references is in the RFP. We asked them to provide some references that we could talk to. We used our kind of standardized format to collect those references and got back results from the 2 finalists. After that round, we had our preferred vendor, and we've been negotiating the contract since then. Round 1, for the RFP responses, you can see the 15 providers that are here. We had 3 that were close. That's why we moved them over to the next phase of the project. There was 100 points possible at this point. When we moved to the interview stage, as I kind of talked about before, the interviews went well for 2 of the providers, and 1 not so well. You can kind of see the score that's there. So we only scored Buzz Clan and Consult Ad for cost. Total, there were 70 points possible, and as noted there, Lansoft cost proposal was not scored. Terms and references. So negotiating through the terms, we scored the references and the terms, and we had 30 points possible. Consult Ad had the most points awarded in this round of scoring. We resulted in total scores of BuzzClan having 154, Consult Ad 161 out of 200 points possible. And that was our preferred vendor after discussion as well. We met to talk about it. The IT support statement of work will roughly cost $397,000 for the first year, and price increase caps to have $409 the second year, $421 the third year. The total for the 3 years is $1.2 million. This is covered by the operating budget. To ensure that we had coverage in the operating budget, went through the IT budget to look at 4 less critical projects and redirected funding to this IT support services contract. Also went through the IT budget to see and review industry trends in terms of cost for licensing. So we have to carry licenses year over year, and that cost increases over year by some industry trend, to look at what our expenses were and project those expenses across the years. Also review the kind of the run rate for replacement as part of these trends to ensure that we're replacing and maintaining healthy systems for the district. That was able that allowed us to find the funds within the IT operating budget to cover this contract. And I want to note that the SAL will not require future operating budget increases. We have found money there to cover this. We chose Consult Ad, primarily because the proposing staffing model met our requirements to ensure that we are providing good support. They have skilled and experienced staff, and skilled and experienced staff in various IT roles. They really wanted to have this integrated approach where they were partnering with the district IT staff, which is something we very much desired, and so we appreciated that. And part of that integrated approach is they were really choosing to invest in this relationship. So investments included things like they are providing a PM at no charge to help with metrics reporting and to ensure that they are providing a resource that can help the support team as well. Another investment that they're doing is we did not have a requirement for 24/7, because if we looked at our ticket data for support, we really weren't getting after all hours calls. But this provider is investing in 24/7 support and ensuring that we have a way to have critical issues called to the support team. They will provide robust reporting metrics, and they very much agreed to terms, so service level agreements, metrics in the contract for both resource quality and ensuring good support. Good support was defined by us as a district, as management, and it really targets things like adherence to target resolution for tickets kind of based on their priority, ensuring effective communication, and really looking for a customer satisfaction score. They'll be leveraging those metrics to ensure they have that, and that is in their contract. They also have cost controls for future work. So this is cost controls for both the IT support services so that they're capped for an increase year over year, and cost controls for future IT roles that we could use. So when we're thinking about this, the approach that we took is we wanted to establish a Master Services Agreement, or MSA. And the reasons that we really wanted to go after an MSA was it really establishes it establishes a partnership with a provider that has skilled IT resources that we can go after with various roles. It provides some immediate access to IT resources, so that if we get into things like the ERP, we have the ability to pull resources quickly. We should need them. It reduces procurement time for obtaining IT resources, and there really is time savings in vendor management as we consolidate with a partner provider. There are cost controls both for the support contract and cost controls for the various resources that they could provide. And it really prepares the district for future modernization efforts. So as we get to modernizing more systems or bringing in new systems with new capabilities, we can leverage this partnership to provide the resources we need to implement. So this is talking more about the future positioning and the structure of the Master Services Agreement. So the Master Services Agreement really is speaking to the partnership. It's the overall kind of governing contract, and it has in there things like resource quality metrics, resource retention metrics that are important to ensuring that we are maintaining quality resources for the district. It also has all the various roles that this partner could provide to the IT team. And I will say that in IT, there are a lot of roles. It's a kind of a discipline where you have a lot of different disciplines, different practices that you could leverage. The structure here at this point is that kind of partnership agreement would hang off the project level statements of work that you see there at the bottom. The first being that we're here talking about today is IT support services. But likely the next one that's going to be there is IT ERP backfill. So as the resources get consumed into ERP, we know there's going to be other delivery work that we need to do, and that will require a backfill contract and some resources. And then future sales after that. The statements of work really contain terms such as the scope of what we're trying to get accomplished, timelines, and any SLAs that are specific to that specific project. So going forward, what the commission will see is that we will be coming forward with statements of work where we require transactional authority. The one we're talking about today is IT support services. That's the first cell, and that's operationally funded. In 2026, we anticipate that we'll be coming back with our second statement of work. That'll be for backfill IT resources to continue some of the delivery work that the current staff is doing and will now be dedicated to ERP, so we'll still need to continue that work. 2027 and beyond, you could see sales for potential modernization projects that we bring forward. So next steps at this point is to transition support to the provider. Provider will deliver the support in 2025 through 2028. It frees up district IT staff to focus on the ERP project. And future SALs will be presented to the commission for approval as we need those resources to complete our work. So the request of the commission is to award contract for level 1 and level 2 IT support services to Consult Ad. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Beth?
Thank you, Bettina. It's really clear, and I'm happy to see the MSA. I think that's a good approach. I do have a kind of a basic question, and that is you mentioned support beyond ERP. Can you give some examples of what that might look like? Because I'm kind of trying to figure out, really, what actually that would look like.
So a lot of that support is support we do today, and it is replacing hardware that fails. It is things like helping correct reports that are having errors so we can't get our regulation reports out. We often have our timekeeping system that goes down, and we need to get that back up and running so we can get timesheets and affect payroll. It's those kind of issues where technology goes bump, both in terms of software and hardware, that we will continue to need to do.
So that would be continue even with ERP in place, or is that something you do during the transition?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so during the transition, so the transition to the provider, we are planning on handing off that kind of work, that support work, to the provider.
Mm-hmm.
So IT staff is freed to do ERP. And then it will, after we're done with transition, they will handle that from that period forward. What transition looks like typically in this scenario is the provider will come in and they will sit through some knowledge sharing sessions where the district IT will say, this is our common known issues, this is how you handle those tickets. And then they enter into a shadowing period where the support team will shadow the district IT team to solve those tickets or there's issues that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a reverse shadowing period where district IT will watch them and help them handle the tickets. At that point, the providers say, I got this. I'm going to take this over for you. Please go focus on ERP. Does that help?
It does. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Audrey?
Commissioner Linkella here. A lot of questions. I will try to focus on a couple. This is a really great job making the focus for the staff to be on the core work that they're supposed to do. So it's great. At the same time, there's lots of, knowledge transfer, right? So when you do the knowledge transfer, we lose a lot of, in-house knowledge there. So is it offshore or onshore, on-site? The support is going to be, what is the model for support?
So that was the beautiful part about sharing our demand with them, is that if you look through the demand that we have, our demand does require an on-site presence, some of our demand, some does not. And so they did propose a staffing model where there will be resources on-site and resources that are off-site that can do some of the work remotely.
So their staff will be located in this, building here, majority of the time, or?
So we have some of their staff that will be located here at the district, yes.
Yeah, so, and you said after the handoff, you're completely off, they're gonna be taking care of that one. Is there any, chance that the knowledge will be lost within our staff that needs to be done if and when, if we have to take over, back from after 3 years?
So one of the things that was part of the selection process was talking through knowledge management. It was a critical kind of scoring component. And the provider will leverage the knowledge that we've already created, enhance it, and we will retain ownership of that knowledge.
Another thing you presented here said time savings in the vendor management. Can you elaborate on that one?
Yeah, so today, what we have typically done when we've delivered systems is we have kept with the provider that implemented it. And so we have various providers that have implemented multiple systems, which requires more time as you have to manage each of those vendors separately. In this instance, we really are consolidating support to a single provider that can handle it. And so one vendor to manage, less time.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense then. I was worried that you were gonna give the vendor management of other products to this consulting firm.
No, I retain vendor management.
Thank you. I'll yield that one for now.
Okay, Greg?
Thanks. Quick question, Commissioner Freeze here. So I understand what I heard, or at least what I heard you say was this is funded by other projects being saved for the next 3 years for what you were cutting something else to pay for this in the operating budget. Is that correct?
It's more of a refocus on priority. So these are projects that wouldn't be accomplished in this year or the next year with ERP. So it's focusing on IT support services, which is critical right now, so that we can handle ERP.
Okay. And then what happens at the end of year 3? So this is a 3-year contract. Is this expected to go on, the focus change, but the agreement go on continuously, effectively?
So we will always have support work. That is never going to end. If you look back at the industry standard, you know, the goal, it is 20%. 20% of IT team is focused on support. And we're going to want to continue to have the district IT staff focus on modernization efforts. So after the 3 years, we want to continue a contract or something similar, and focus on the next modernization effort. Closely on the heels of ERP will be EAM, Enterprise Asset Management. We do need a new solution there. And so we'll pivot those IT resources to start focusing on that modernization effort. There are many more modernization opportunities at the district.
Yeah, I'm sure. I don't mean that the way that came out, sorry. What I mean is, you know, Public Works changes slowly, and we're at a point of change, you know. But my next question then is, so somewhere in the contract, is there an estimate of effectively how many people you are getting here? So, so you mentioned you're gonna have somebody here. Is it one somebody's, two somebody's? What are we talking? I'm kind of trying to get it in my head for the dollar here, how many equivalent people you're getting out of it.
Yes, so yes, in order to confirm the kind of their estimate, it is, 2 on-site resources, 1 remote resource, a partial PM resource that is free to us, and then they also will be providing a buffer resource that is not charged to us as well. That really is, in the case we have a large uptick in demand, that resource will slide to help, and also is there if we ever have turnover for any reason, that resource can come and quickly replace any of the resources that are on our IT support services contract.
Okay, so then the obvious question that falls from that, right, is, so you got, what I heard is you have 3 full-time people, and I'm gonna call it 2 partial, as-needed people, a project manager, and then this backfill person, which is actually a really good idea. That's a really good idea. So my question is, I assume as part of this whole thing, you discussed the alternative of adding 3 people at the district here, and how did that get discussed, and why did you go this way, I guess, is what I'm really asking.
The reason we kind of went this way is it was the fastest path to getting resources in place, support transition, to enable district IT staff to be free for ERP. Hiring positions is a long process. We have to go through approval, we have to get the approval, we have to craft the jobs, we have to post the jobs. And then other reasons include that IT support is typically a high turnover role. And so we'd be in the cycle of hiring over and over again and transitioning over and over again. Kind of the third benefit with this model is putting the support on the provider. One of the things that is part of that partnership agreement is they are responsible for transition. So that incentivizes them to both retain the knowledge for how our systems work, keep it up to date, but enables them to transition to any new resources, taking that burden off the district.
Okay, thank you.
Bill, and then Beth.
Bill Walker, one other thing Bettina's already mentioned, which we're buying here, is a high level of industry expertise in how to do modern support, which is above and beyond mere people and time. There are a lot of new and innovative ways to do support. That's what this firm is also offering in addition to the FTE.
Beth?
Commissioner Buckland, I was just going to say pretty much exactly what Bill Walker just said, that IT is a core competency, and it's probably not a core competency that we want to develop at the district. So I think outsourcing that is a really good idea, and I support it. So thanks.
Okay, anybody online have any questions? No? Okay, I had a couple. Greg's line of questioning is something I was going to be asking. Pretty good, he asked it. But there's another follow-up or two I have. So what would have been more cost-effective, hiring our own 3 persons or this? And then secondly, are we paying them on a per-hour basis at a cost not to exceed, or are we paying them full contract for the year regardless of the hours they put in?
So your first question is cost comparison. I don't think I did one for...
This is Bill Walker. We can do one right now. You can just look at the dollar cost of the contract and the cost of an IT resource, and this contract is cheaper than that number of FTE.
Thank you. So then your secondary question, can you repeat your secondary question, please? Oh, yes.
Is it an hourly rate that is it an hourly rate that we pay them, or at a cost not to exceed, or do we pay them the whole amount for the year regardless of the amount of hours they put in?
We will be paying them monthly. This statement of work is written as a fixed bid, meaning that they will provide these resources that are dedicated to our account. We will have all these hours and we'll pay them this rate. This rate does align to the rates that are in our partnership agreement, and hourly rates.
Okay, so regardless of if our support services were to drop dramatically, we're getting paid. So here I got another point. We knew the ERP was coming, right? And there was apparently you didn't ask for this in the budget because you've chosen to change other priorities, whatever those other priorities were, to be able to fund it for this year. So it seems like it was poor budget planning to not have anticipated that this would be necessary with ERP, because it was months ago we heard about ERP and the demand it was going to be putting on staff and everything else. So your staff will be moved to ERP. We'll be having this group come in to backfill, and I'm wondering why this wasn't anticipated back in 2024 when we were doing the budget for 2025, so that it wouldn't have, you wouldn't have had to borrow. Because when you're taking money from other priorities, it makes me question whether or not budget was appropriately done, or you're putting too much fluff in the budget to be able to, I just don't, this idea of other priorities being shifted, that obviously then the priority wasn't a priority, or was a priority, but now it's not a priority. I mean, it gets very confusing. And then we're told here today in the packet that there was $20 million that's not being, that we're over that we have excess in the operating budget. At the same time, we're being told that our current system doesn't really give us, current financial system doesn't really give us the amounts that we know, how much a project is, or that. So I don't know how all of a sudden everybody knows that we're over $20 million, which is one of the questions that our customer communities keep asking, is why we're over budgeting. So, there's a whole bunch of stuff that gets wrapped up into here as to why wasn't this anticipated in 2024 when we knew ERP was coming. How all of a sudden do we know that there's $20 million in the budget when we're told we don't really know all that stuff? And then priorities and budgeting, like how is something a priority then no longer it's not? This boggles my mind. Like in 2024 when you budgeted, why was it a priority then now it's not? Maybe that's too much to answer.
I'm going to answer this question. Eric Dundee, Executive Director. I started in January. Things have changed. The budgets from 2024 for 2025 and beyond, things have changed. Priorities have changed, things that were in the budget. I'm going to tell you with Bill here in 20 minutes about a service charge increase that's different than what we've projected in the past. So that's how I want to respond is, I think you got it. You are understanding what's happened in the past, but I'm here to tell you things have changed.
It answers part, but it doesn't answer why IT didn't anticipate that ERP was going to be demanding so much of our services.
Bettina Culver, District Technology Manager. So I will share that in 2024, I introduced the ticketing system, which allowed us to measure IT demand and understand where IT staff capacity was used. I did not have the data or insight to understand that 70% of IT capacity was being leveraged on support work. As soon as I did, I started this process after having a quarter's worth of data in April to look for a partner that could help us take over IT support, because I knew it was a problem for ERP.
Greg?
Bill, do you want to answer the, extra 20 million question?
Let me answer that during the budget presentation.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Anybody online?
Dan does.
Oh, I can't see that. Okay, Dan?
Two questions. First, you said you're freeing up 75% of hours. How many actual hours do you anticipate you're freeing up? Is question number one. Did you hear me?
Yes, I did. I'm sorry. I had microphone issues. So Patina Culver, District Technology Manager. So we are anticipating to free up, so 70%. We will maintain 15% of the help for complex support issues, if you will. So that is 70 minus 15, what is that? 55% of capacity is being freed up.
Yeah, but I would like to know in hours though, not in percentages, please. Because right now
Somebody have a
you're
calculator?
no, look at it this way. Right now you're gaining 6,000 hours approximately. 3 FTEs is approximately 6,000 hours. Are you saving 6,000 hours of time with your staff?
Okay, 40 times. We're saving 10,920 hours with staff.
So they're going to pick up 10,000 hours with 6,000 hours? That's what you're saying though. Right now you're gaining approximately 3. Even if you use Greg's thing, you're gaining, maybe you're gaining almost 4. That's still only 8,000 hours, and it doesn't make sense to me how you're either they're really good or we need some training. Do you know what I mean? It does. The numbers don't make sense to me.
So where we're headed is one of the points that Bill stressed earlier is that we're buying modernized support with resources that are experienced. So a couple things. They're going to come in and deliver the support that we deliver today. And they will also look through demand reduction opportunities. And that will help level out their hours so that it's within a full-time capacity for these resources to deliver.
This numbers still don't make sense to me, but going to question number 2. I've used companies like this or worked with companies like this, and I guarantee you 1 out of the 3 people will not be a very good fit for this company just because of how they work, mannerisms and stuff like that. Do you have a chance to swap out people?
We do. You know, part of the structure of this contract is the master services agreement is a partnership. And so we have quality resource metrics in there, and we will have the ability to switch them out if we deem it's necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Tom, I'll just chime in quick.
Oh.
Commissioner Meyer here. Thanks for the presentation, Bettina. This is a lot of complicated stuff for me that's different than what I'm familiar with, but I'm finding the presentation compelling, and the need to go this route as opposed to hiring on our own staff makes sense to me, and a lot of money, but I think we're getting a value we need when we need it, right when we have this huge project coming on board with ERP that's critically important, and we've got some other ones around the corner after it. So I'm seeing it all logic out to me and makes sense. I'm in support of where we're headed with this. Thanks for the good work on it.
Thank you.
Patrick?
I'd like to echo those comments. I think you've come into this role with a lot of opportunity, modernization, and you're just beginning that journey. The ticket process you implemented is, we don't have good data to support, opportunities like this. And yeah, you are guessing, but, I'm really supportive of the way you're approaching this, the structure of the contract with metrics, and the ability to, evaluate year by year whether this is something, that makes sense to continue. So, thanks for your work.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the, I think it was a resolution?
I'm happy to make that motion. This is Commissioner Meyer.
And I'll second it, Commissioner Bookland.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Meyer, second by Commissioner Bookland. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I got one last question. Would we be doing this if not for the ERP system?
Yes, we would be doing this if not for the ERP system. We have a lot of modernization opportunities here, and we need new systems and new capabilities.
Bill's gonna do and then Eric on the budget.
Yep, Eric Dundee, Executive Director. I'll kick this off. So really what I just want to emphasize here, what Bill Walker will go through is, first and foremost, no surprises. We've talked about the budget and pieces of this for the last 3 months. Even before that, I had met with commissioners one-on-one. We've been meeting with customer communities. I've done that. Bill, Amanda, others have done that for financial reasoning and thinking. And really, this is the culmination of what we think we heard and what we're delivering. So what were the wants? What were the things that people here in this room and online as commissioners were asking for? And basically then for me, what is it that we're doing to efficiently run the business of collecting, treating, and returning wastewater? So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to Bill and let him talk through it.
All right, Bill Walker, Deputy Executive Director. Keep clicking. There we go. As Eric said, my job today is to bring everything together into one place, and I'm going to do it as follows. I'm going to put on the screen a little bit more detail on what we've done so far that Eric just touched on, a process recap. I'm going to go through in a moderate amount of detail what is changing in the 2026 budget compared to the 2025 budget. There is a more detailed version of this in the budget document itself. I'll put on the slide the household impact number. There's a minor positive surprise on that slide. Talk a little bit about past budgets and future forecasts, put this budget in context. I want to take a minute to remind/inform everyone of what commission policies, what the commission is approving when it approves a budget, as given in commission policies, and then put up the very familiar next step slide. So process recap, here are some of the highlights, just as a reminder. We started this way back in May, where Eric presented his priorities for the budget and got feedback. Was that listening session in this room with communities. In June, we introduced the frontline positions, the 3 frontline positions in July. Todd Giebert and Jen Hurlbus gave a detailed overview of the capital improvements plan at the end of July. In August, we gave a version of what I'm doing today to communities to give them a little bit of a preview. And then the very next day, we introduced organizational alignment here to the district. And now here we are today. Changes from 2025. So there's a table hidden under those lines, and I'm going to reveal it bit by bit. Again, there's a more detailed version of this. What I'm showing you here is the impacts on service charges comparing the 2025 budget to the 2026 budget, both in terms of dollars and in terms of percentage points. So the first item is in 2026 compared to the 2025 budget, we are transferring less to the capital and debt funds, $1.4 million, All other things equal, that would be a 2.4% reduction in service charges. Briefly, the reason we're doing that is, you'll see later, we had excess reserves under the new commission policy, and so we're aligning, and you need less transfer there. A bunch of things lumped together as cost to continue, things that are essentially impossible to avoid. My favorite examples are you have to pay the electric bill, you have to pay the water bill. That's about $400,000 increase compared to 2025. We are trying to keep our wages in line with the market. We talked about earlier, that's Eric picked 3% this year based on the feedback from our advisory firm and some other organizations in the area. That's $600,000 total. That would be about a 1.1% increase by itself. A category very much lumped together. Most of it is maintenance stuff, equipment, parts, certain repair projects, operating budget repair projects, some fleet items. I had no other place to put the legal cost increase, so I put it in here. That's about $800,000. Would be a 1.3% increase by itself. There's some things that, this is a practice Ben Neer had started before he left, we're identifying as one-time costs. This is actually a standard budgeting practice. We have made a note of these items. They will come out in the next budget because they're temporary projects. Just to illustrate, one of them is one of the modernization projects for IT, finishing the MetroGrow database project, which you approved several meetings ago. And then there's the frontline positions. I'm going to list these in a later slide, about $400,000 total. And then the organizational alignment, the management positions, I'll list those as well. Then we have not a spending item, but a revenue item. The operating budget is almost entirely supported by service charges, but we do get revenue from other sources. Septage fees, plan review fees, various things like that, interest earnings. We don't set those strictly, we forecast them. Our forecast is a little bit higher in 2026. If you increase your other revenue, you need less in service charges, so that's a negative number there. And then we have to keep pace with mission reserve requirement. The reserve requirement grows as your spending grows, so in order to meet that, we have to increase revenue to cover that jump. And if you add all of those things together, you need a net additional $2.7 million, which is 4.7%. In previews, I believe I said 4.9, slightly lower when everything came together. Again, there is a much more detailed version of this table in the budget document. Now let's talk about positions. So what I'm going to do here is put an org chart on the screen. This is just the manager and above level org chart. So it's going to look like we have a lot of management, but if you put the entire org chart in there, including all of the people who work on maintenance and so on, there's a lot that I couldn't fit on this slide. Starts with the executive director, who under our new organizational structure will have 3 direct reports. We're introducing new terminology through this, as we talked about before. We are calling these division directors, and they are matching our 3 main functional lines of business. 2 of those positions already exist, although the titles are changing. There's some title changes throughout this presentation, which I'm not gonna highlight. The person on the right is yours truly. We have a vacancy for planning and engineering director, and then there is no position in existence to cover the operations and maintenance role, indicating that with orange there. Each of those people has a department manager reporting to them. There's again a title change here. We're trying to get clear alignment of what a division and a department are and get those titles matching. I'm just going to put the existing ones on the board for context here, starting with Amanda Wegner, who is Public Relations and Engagement, or will be, maybe, if we change her title to that. There's 2 in my group, HR manager and IT manager, 2 in planning and engineering, 1 for the planning side, 1 for the engineering side. And then in O&M, we have a person for the treatment plant, the reliability process work, maintenance, of course, and regulatory programs is Marty Griffin. That's a potential rename from ecosystems. So those are what exist. Now, what needs to be added in terms of management? We need to add two more to make this system work, two more managers. One is with my group. Forgive me for this, but I call this the Ken Clark position. This is the, who's going to give me my reports? I listen. That's good. That's good. I listen to what you say. And then the other one is for collection system. This is a long-standing hole in our organization. We have someone paying attention to the plant. The collection system is also extremely important. This gets someone with eyes on that system all the time. So those are the three new management org alignment positions put in context. And then the frontline positions, starting with, we proposed a communications and marketing specialist. I won't go through all the reasons for these here. We've covered them before. And then the systems integrator position and asset information specialist. Just a verbal note, the dotted line is indicating those positions are in the groups shown, but they don't actually report to the manager there. So this will be available in the slides on the web if you want to refer. But I'm just illustrating where those 6 positions listed are fitting in our org structure. All right, here's the household impact slide. To make this budget balance, and balance is the key word under state law, we need to collect $61.38 million in service charges. That's a 4.7% increase, as I said. On an average household basis, it's about $287 a year for the average household for the entire year, which is a $7 per year increase above 2025. I believe I was previewing 13 earlier. I'm not going to go into this here, but the household impact calculation depends on our flow and loading projections, and in particular, the impact of industrial customers. And when we finalized those projections this year, the impact was to have a little bit less of a burden on households in 2026. And that map is to show you who is paying these charges. We appreciate it. We like to put our charges in context. Excuse me a minute. This is information from the National Association of Clean Water Agencies, NACWA. They do a national survey every year. It's backward looking, it's historical, so we're only going through 2024, but it does give you a sense of where we are. That top line is the national average cost per household of wastewater services. Orange is our region, so the states listed there. And the lower line, the gray line, is our charges plus the city of Madison, and this is always a point of confusion. The reason we do this is we have to align with NACWA's methodology, which is to look at the largest community in the areas that they're surveying. So that's Madison. We include them in our charges. And again, the point here is always, as it has been, we are, at least compared to these benchmarks, at a reasonable point. Sure.
Where does Madison sit within the hierarchy of our customer communities and charges? Are in the middle, at the top, at the bottom? You know?
That's a fantastic question, which I can't answer, and the reason is I don't have visibility into how every community charges, and I wish I did, but I don't.
So we don't know.
Yeah.
I was just curious where, I would think some small communities might have much higher.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what it is in the town of Dunford, Dan, what they add on, or say Village of McFarland, or town of Dane, or Village of Dane, you know. But
the one thing I can say is there's a branch of academic research on wastewater and water services generally that finds that regularity, that larger systems and larger communities are more efficient on a per unit basis, which stands to reason. All right, so that's context. Let's look at past and future, a simpler table here. So I'm going to be doing two things. On this slide, I'm going to talk about how did we perform relative to budget, and then how did we perform relative to reserves requirements. So I'm going to show 2024 and then what we're forecasting our budget to be in 25. The operating budget, we were under budget by about $2.3 million in 2024. To me, that's very reasonable. I wouldn't want to get much closer because then you're risking a problem. At the moment, I'm forecasting that we're right on in 2025. What that really means is I only have data through August. I have a sort of projection methodology which has us about 3 to 4 below, but I don't believe that because things tend to pick up at the end of the year. So we'll get that clearer as we move into quarter 4. Capital Projects Fund, hold because there's a point to be made here. We ended 2024 having spent almost $22 million less than we budgeted, and we all agree that's not good. And we've had that discussion before for a couple of years. We're forecasting 2025 to end about 7.3, and we can make that forecast because we have very project-specific level data there. That's better. That's pretty good. I think we could probably do better, but capital's so variable that I think that's an improvement. And the theme there is, as I hinted, we're trying to improve our alignment of what we are forecasting our spending to be with what we can actually do. And then in the debt service fund, these are very reasonable numbers. Debt is important to be able to pay. You don't want to get too close to your budget limit. So I at least am very comfortable with those numbers. And then in terms of fund balance, so I'm going to present this in terms of excess reserves. And as you'll recall, all 3 funds have a reserve policy that allows a range. I'm just comparing to that, the sort of point limit. So for the operating fund, that limit is the 180-day requirement. In 2024, we ended up about $7.4 million above reserves. That is primarily additional service charge revenue over what we anticipated. That's a little bit higher than I'd like to see it. I think it's okay. 25, we're forecasting about 2.7. And we have built the 2026 budget to be exactly on that 180-day target. Now, this is the moment where I can talk about the $20 million. Okay, so for those, let me bring everyone into this discussion here. One of the, I believe it was the car for the item that Bettina just presented. In the financial impact section, there's a line that I wrote which said, is there money to pay for this? Not budget, but money. My answer was yes, there's money to pay for this. So we're forecasting the operating fund to close with a $20 million balance. And immediately after that, Commissioner Freeze emailed me and said, I think this is going to mislead people because they're going to think you have too much money, which is exactly what happened. That is the gross balance in that fund. It is not the net balance, net of reserves. So that is my error there, and I apologize for that misleading. This is the correct way to think about our fund balances in the operating fund. We are forecasting a net balance above reserves of 2.7, which, again, that's within that allowable range. Capital fund, less forgiving story. We ended 2024 with about a $10 million excess reserve. That is above the reserve range. As I'm going to show you a picture of this in a minute. 2025, we're still forecasting to be too high, but we've built the 26 budget to be much, much closer to that target. Debt fund also closed too high in 24 and will again in 25. But again, we've built that budget to be closer. And the theme for both of those is we're trying to, well, for all of them, we're trying to align to the new reserves policy. And again, as you've picked up, I am a big fan of thinking about cash flow and fund reserves, and I do genuinely appreciate that new policy because it makes this whole conversation clearer. All right, same point visually. There's no graph for the operating fund because that's an annual. Capital fund reserves. So you've seen this picture before. The green zone is it's the range in which we don't have to do anything different. Yellow is you got to start correcting, and red is you can do that for 1 year, but you need to tell us why. So 24 and 25, we're in that red zone. We're outside of where we're supposed to be. 26, again, we've built the budget to get us right back into the green zone. And I've made another point here before, I'll repeat it. Those reserves are going down in our plan into the future. And the reason we built the plan that way is because this is a high spending period in front of us. One thing you can do with reserves is take a little bit of the pressure off of service charge requirements. You have a high spending period, and that's how we put the plan together. Debt fund, similar story. Debt is way more predictable than capital spending is, but our balances were too high. 24 and 25, we brought them back down in 26. I chose to put them at the top of that green zone mainly because I'm particularly frightened of not being able to pay back debts. Seems like a bad thing, but as you build the plan, it's less of a concern. So I just put it right on the target. So to summarize all of these slides, the point is we have been both underspending and having reserves that are in above where they need to be, and the 26 budget is designed to fix both of those issues. Still on past and future service charges. So there's a graph hidden here that you're going to see in a minute. 4.7% increase in 2026 is what we're budgeting. Compared to the past, that is lower. This is, again, Eric's point. Things are different here. Anything else to say about that? Future, high spending period, we've talked about it many, many times. Our forecast has a 6.4% increase service charges in 2027, and then higher going out. That's still lower than where we were a couple of years ago. Again, that's us trying to use reserves strategically. And then just a general point, we redo this planning every single year. We'll see how 2026 actually turns out, see how the bid for liquid processing actually turns out, and we'll adjust as we go. All right, what does the commission approve when it approves a budget? I encourage you all to read your financial policies. I did not write them. You'll find them hard to understand, but if you boil them down, this is what they say about budget. When you approve the operating budget, you are approving two things. You are approving a total spending limit for the budget year, 2026. Policies explicitly give the executive director the ability to move money around in the budget across cost centers. You are also explicitly approving the transfer to the debt service fund, not to capital. Capital is in the ED's discretion, but debt service, since it's a critical payment, is explicit. Capital fund, a little bit different. You are approving total spending for the budget year, as with the operating budget, but you are also approving a list of projects, the list itself. If a project is not named with spending authority for 2026, we don't get to spend on it, even if we put it in future years in the CIP. You have seen us occasionally come back to add a project to the current year's capital budget. This is what we're doing. The project we want, usually it's that we want to start early, but it's not listed, and so we have to add it. You're also approving the total cost for each capital project individually. That is not tied to years. That's on the lifetime of the project. So that's all I need to say there. Debt service fund, you're approving debt service payments. You're not approving a limit because we're going to pay our debt service no matter what you say. And we've already listed it, but it's there again. You're approving the transfer from operating to debt. And those are policies 2A, ATT 2A, and 2F summarized. And then next steps. We're introducing the budget today. You see the URL for the budget. Amanda, is this correct? Did we get this right? Yes, we did. Good. Public hearing next week. Just a note for anyone listening, written comments on the budget are due on October 10th at 4 p.m. Those are going to Amanda Wegner. And then deliberation and adoption. That's everything I have.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Anybody have any questions? Patrick, go ahead.
The, slide 4 in your presentation talks about the headline level changes from the 2025 budget. I was curious specifically, and no, I haven't read budget document page 27 yet. The change in non-service charges revenue, is that relating to decrease in connection fees from previous years? What's contributing to a decline there, and is that something we should be looking at in the future as a way to help better distribute things between those charges and service charges?
That's a great question. So I do have to clarify. We're forecasting an increase in those other sources of revenues, which results in a reduction in what we have to collect in service charges. So that table is showing the impact on service charge requirements. I'm being hoisted by my own petard here, because it's going to take me forever to get back to that slide. There we go. So just to make sure it's very, very clear. So what this table is showing is the impact on service charge requirements of each item. Non-service charge revenue is going up, therefore we need less in service charge revenue. That makes sense. The impact on, yes, no, I worried about this. The impact on service charges is negative. We're getting more revenue in whatever, septage fees, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you're not wrong to be confused. I thought a long time about this, and I couldn't figure out a better way to present it, because its impact on service charges is actually to reduce our requirements.
Okay, so I got a question. With the change in the debt service funding, so that gives us an extra 2.4%, or $1.4 million. It's the, half or more of the 2.7 in that cost. So that's a rather significant savings. Are we creating a structural deficit for 27? No.
This is an excellent question as well. So let me repeat the question for everyone. Talking about that first line on this table, which shows that we're reducing the amount of financial support for the capital fund and the debt service fund in 2026. And the natural concern there is, well, you're contributing less to those funds. Doesn't that generate a problem for you in later years? Aren't you putting yourselves behind the 8 ball? And one way to think about this is, I could erase that line. We could take that away. We could keep the transfer where we could have the transfer be higher and have service charges correspondingly be higher. If we did that, we would have fund reserves that were higher than they needed to be. So that is an option. I mean, the commission won't want to do this, but you could keep that transfer there. If you did it, that would allow you to have 2027's service charge increase be correspondingly smaller. You'd basically be getting ahead of the game. The reason we chose to put this together is getting ahead of the game, so to speak, collecting service charges before you need them is, as I heard it, the entire complaint of our customer communities. And I think they're correct about it. Collect revenue when you need it. Don't start collecting early just to get ahead. So that's what this is reflecting. We don't actually need that money in 2026. We can comply with our reserves policies. We can meet our spending requirements as this is shown. That's the end of my answer.
So the other question is regarding the IT contract we just approved.
Yep.
So there was $400 and some thousand for 26. Now, I don't know how you budgeted for IT. I assume that's been budgeted in here. But then it's not really a structural deficit because you're not adding in those other priorities that were taken out? Or trying to get an idea as to, all of a sudden, we have $400-some thousand more that we have to budget, that we have a line item for next year that we don't have a line item for this year, right?
Right.
And so the way it's being paid for this year is taking priorities and non-prioritizing the priorities, pay for that.
Yeah, let me answer that by defining structural deficit, as at least as I use the term. Let me do it by an example. Let's say that we added a position today in the 2025 budget. We would only have to pay that person, well, and let's also assume magically we could hire them today. We would only have to pay their budget for 4 months, but we would know that we had created an obligation of the district to pay their entire salary next year. That's what I think of as a structural deficit. You have created a commitment that you basically can't get out of, but you've only paid for part of it this year. That's not what's going on with those IT projects that Bettina was talking about. They're off the table. They're set aside. We're not doing them. We're not committed to doing them. We don't have the immediate plans to do them. They were lower priorities and they're taken off the table. Now, it may become the case in, who knows, 27, 28, that we decide we'd like to do them or some version of them. But at that point, there'll be a new budget proposal. There'll be a thing we have to introduce and justify and get support for.
So they talked about that starting basically right away. So I was thinking 25 is year one, but now when I look at the number, there's only a $15,000 difference between year one and year two. So it's like that's an awful lot of money being spent for IT support in 25. So 397 versus 409 is what she has for year one. So I don't know what, maybe we're getting too down in the details. I didn't know what we were doing here. She didn't say year one is 25 or 26, but because she was starting right away, I assumed 5 maybe. Not.
I confess I'm not familiar enough with the details of the IT budget to answer that question. Apologies.
All right. Okay, Eric?
In an effort to get wrong, right? No, what I will tell you is based on the contract totals for a 12-month period starting in 2025. So the numbers you're seeing are that 12-month period, not what's going to be spent in 25. So. Correct, yep.
Thank you, Bill. This has been helpful. Couple of questions on the org chart slide that you showed. I was just curious where purchasing fits into that whole.
The purchasing function is located in the business administration division, my division, and underneath what will be the finance manager position. That's one of Baker Tilly's points with that design is procurement is a financial function. They want to get all of those in the same place.
Okay, good. The other question I had is when I gave the example of project authorization, we pass let's for round number, $15 million project, but it takes 3 years to complete it. When we secure the funds for that, is that $5 million, $5 million, $5 million? It's more of a tracking the financial history of a project question. Help me clarify how we do that.
I'm going to ask you to ask that again in a different way because I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah, let's say it's a $15 million project. Board passes, or the commission passes that today, and it's going to take 3 years to complete that. Do we borrow the funds, or do we pay for that project as it happens over that 3-year period, or do we secure $15 million today?
I understand the question. It depends on the project's financing, but let's say that we have, I'll give you 3 answers depending on the financing. Let's say that it's a project that we know we are going to pay for with cash. We're not going to borrow anything for it. Then what we do is we put in our estimated cost for that project by year into our financial model. That's the model that generates that reserves graph that I was showing you. And then we look, is there enough money to cover this and all the other projects? So basically what we're doing is we're putting together a cash flow model for what we anticipate we will need to cover not just an individual project, but all of them. So that's cash funding. If it's clean water fund financed, we again put in the estimated costs. We also put in our estimate of when we will receive clean water fund reimbursements for that project. There can be some delay in those reimbursements depending on where you are in the project phase, but the spending and the reimbursement schedule, again, go into that model, and they tell us what our closing balance will be, and we make sure that will work. For general obligation bonding, which we have not done yet, that's a little bit different game because you get that revenue up front. So the challenge there, I think that's a little more in line of where your question is headed. The challenge there is you don't want to get that bonding too soon because then you're paying interest on things that you don't need. We've never done this before, but the approach will be to work with our financial advisor to have them go through our financial model and their understanding of markets and a good timing for a bond issue, and make sure that we're getting that revenue at the right time. I think the other point I want to make, I've hinted at this, is we're thinking of our cash flow on an aggregate basis, all projects together. We're not financing projects individually. We're doing them as a whole. So, for example, if we have to issue a general obligation bond, one of the tricks we might use is to tweak our use of cash for other projects to make it easier to delay when we have to get a bond or change the timing. It's all of the projects working together in an overall financial model, and that's what we're solving for.
Okay. So in my opinion, that's where a finance manager can get all of those projects on the radar screen, track them financially, help forecast what we need each year to cover that, instead of the bucket approach we've, I guess, used in the past.
Yeah, and there are some opportunities for improvement there. They'll still use the bucket approach, but there's some more detail to be done and some more precision and control to be had, and that's one of the things I'm excited about having a finance for. So I can look at that person and say, you do this.
And the reason I asked the question, too, is because that is not the easiest thing to forecast and get right. You're really detail-oriented. Financial boundaries.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Greg?
I just have a follow-up on Ken's question there. So the finance manager, that, just so I'm clear in my head, that is not Ben's position. Ben's been gone now for 3 months-ish. Or his position fits underneath that finance, correct? And remind me, what was Ben's title actually, and does it stay the same in the new world order here?
His title, I think, was budget officer. Baker Tilly recommends analyst. I actually agree with that. My career was that job for a long, long time. Just a little context for this. The reason for their recommendation for this structure is you're bringing everything together in finance, including accounting, which we already have, comptroller, budgeting, that's the old Ben position you're referring to, and procurement. So these are three very different, not very different, but they are different functions. They require different skill sets. Each one of them requires attention, and the finance manager's job is to make sure those people are all working together towards the same goal of management of our money.
We have Dan and then Beth.
The other thing I was going to note, Bill, on your chart here, actually, if you take the bottom line and the top line, they basically net to zero because the fund balances offset each other.
Correct.
So, I mean, if you take those two out, it's basically a 2.7% increase in the rest. The the top and the bottom net to zero, at least in my world. So
Agreed.
so the fund policies, even though we changed them, they ended up being just shifting left and right a little bit. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Beth?
Well, I really love the 4.7%. That's really great to see. But I do have a question. I remember on your one slide, 2026, we're looking at like a 6.8 or some kind of increase. And then after that, 6 to 7% increases. And I'm just wondering if, this may not be real popular, but should we not take out so much from the capital and debt funds this year, kind of even out that increase a little bit for 2026? Kind of trying to think ahead, kind of even that out. And I know that 2026, it's a real guess right now what that's going to look like. So there's a lot of factors that can go in to change that. But I'm just wondering if we aren't taking out a little bit too much this year. And I just want to say a caveat to that is that I do love the 4.7%. It's really nice to see, but just, thinking about ahead. So that's one question. Another question I have is around the org chart. So we could go back to that after this.
Eric's got an answer or will respond, I should say, to your first question and take you back to your...
Yeah, Beth, to respond to your question, I would tell you that is your choice. If you remember the last slide about what the next step is, deliberation for you guys, deliberation and direction. So that conversation of what question you're talking about would be for the commission to wrestle with later. So up next, your org chart question.
I just wanted to add to that, I was having that same question in my mind. It occurred to me that many years in the past, we did that a number of times. We borrowed from our cash reserves, changed things to make the rate increase more smooth rather than way up like that. And on the other hand, we've heard from our customer communities that don't over budget, so we could do that and collect a little more over the, less now and have a 5 or 6% increase and then reduce the following years. And so that's a good point for discussion. Okay, now your org question.
So going back, can we go back to that org chart?
We're having a little difficulty on the screen in here. Do we want to, is this solvable? It turned itself off. That's great. Cassie, are you able to jump us to the org chart slide quicker than I can?
First of all, thanks for the org chart. I really appreciate that. That's really helpful. A couple of questions. One is the two new positions, the automated systems integrator and the asset information specialist. I know you have a dotted line right now to the treatment plant manager and the operations reliability manager, but I'm wondering, where do you see those positions reporting into?
Eric, you better answer this one. It's your group.
Yeah, this is great. So what you are not seeing is the extra layers in there, yeah. So the asset information specialist would actually report to the operations reliability manager as part of our asset group and doing that work. And then the automated systems integrator would actually report to our automated systems integrator super. So there's a group of two now, and we would be adding a third there. So this person would report directly to them, who then reports to the treatment plant manager.
Okay, perfect. That answers that. And then I know, you had presented the Baker Tilly results to us, and there were future positions that they had recommended. So how do those positions kind of fit into 2026 and beyond? Because I assume that they're not going to be funded in 2025. So just what is your kind of thinking going forward with some of those positions?
So I actually prepared for this question. Thank you. Now that wasn't for not. I don't want to look too far into the future on what it looks like below implementing the new district leadership structure with the directors and managers. We have to understand the clear roles and expectations of each director and each manager, and then work our way through the rest of it. Baker Tilly looked at this holistically for the leadership, leaving out some portions of the district in their review of, you know, how many mechanics we need or what we have with connections like that. But what they did do is give me enough direction to say, here's the director, here's the manager hierarchy. And I want to concentrate on that through all of 2026 to have that implemented in 27 to be working in a new way. So to look further and to look at the other positions Baker Tilly is proposing is just too premature for me.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense. I do have a kind of a request, and that is at some point I'd like to see a description of the roles and responsibilities of the executive director and the people who are directly reporting into you. So, you know, to better understand, you know, what, you know, you guys are, what those roles and responsibilities are.
Noted, and that will come, and with the approval of the budget, we can move forward with those type of actions.
Okay. There are a number of commissioners that did have some heartburn over all the positions that Baker Tilly was asking for, and their levels of responsibility. Managers was a bad, but managers of very few reports or whatever, very top heavy. So, Patrick?
Thank you, Commissioner Lytle. I was absent the meeting where the station was given, but I did tune in for it after the fact. While I completely agree with what you're saying, Eric, about let's focus on the top levels of the org chart, but I also want some comfort level that the future service charge increases that we're projecting are accounting for some headroom, no pun intended, and some assumed staff growth, specifics to be determined.
I can give you that reassurance. Say that, yes, the future service charge increase has a forecast of operating budget growth. It's a very high-level forecast because we don't plan in detail, obviously, but it does include a growth path that could accommodate a reasonable number of positions per year, 3, 4, 5, maybe.
Yeah, I would just hold you to that, so there's, not an additional 0.5% increase because, we didn't think we'd. I mean, you can't project that far in the future, but I would want us to have some set aside for those assumptions.
Okay. Anyone else? Nope. So then couple weeks, we have the hearing on the budget comments due in October. Then after that, we have our deliberation. Then the following meeting, we act. So that's our action is at the end of October 30th. Okay. I think we're done with that item. So that will take us to the executive director update. Eric?
I'm happy to report there's no report. Oh, Amanda has a report. I'm sorry. Dang it.
Amanda Wagner, Communications and Public Affairs Director. So just wanted to give the commission a heads up. We have the 2026 dates, commission dates set, and there are 2 changes. Cassie or Lynn, if you don't mind switching, we will get this to you. But 2 things. We are shifting the meetings in October 2026. So typically we meet the 2nd and the 4th Thursday of every month, unless there are 5 Thursdays, then it is the 3rd and the 5th. So the last few years, we've had 5 Thursdays in October. So we are actually going to shift our meetings in October 2026 up, just shift them all up 1 week. That allows us to not get the budget done on the last or near last day of October. One of the things we have heard again and again from communities is the sooner we can get the budget done, the sooner they have assurance so that they can finalize their own budgets. So we are shifting those October dates. And then we are also shifting dates just a little bit in November. We have the last, well, as long as I've been here, had a meeting on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, which tends to have a number of commissioners out. So we are shifting to avoid having a meeting on that day. So, you know,
what days are you using?
Cassie, can you go back to the other?
It's hard to read from back here.
Yep. So in November, so basically October and November, they're all shifted up 1 week. So it'll be the 8th and 22nd of October, and then in November it will be the 5th and the 19th to avoid Thanksgiving week. You guys will, commissioners will get this. I know Cassie and the team are already working on setting up calendar invites and Zoom, so expect a flurry of invitations to come soon, but just wanted to point out that we, based on attendance, feedback from both commission and customer communities, we have made some small adjustments for 2026.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. That will take us to committee reports. Ezra? Ezra, do you have a committee report? Okay, let's go to Greg. Do you have a committee report?
Nothing this time. We're meeting again, I think, next week.
Okay.
So we're good.
Okay. Ezra, are you back? Nope. So let's go to regulatory and legal. Paul?
The report is in your materials, but there's really nothing new. We wanted to let you know the matters we continue to follow. Certainly the PFAS issues coming out of Washington are evolving. I know Marty follows that very closely, others, but we do too. I suspect that there are going to be some things wrapping up in the legislature here the next few months, but right now, coming off of the summer, they're really...
Thank you. I was up north, got back Wednesday, and the news up north, I was in Boulder Junction, but the news up north was the area basically east of Rhinelander and the high PFAS concentrations found. So there's a no eat fish advisory and no eating deer caught area too. Yeah. So I don't know. I didn't hear anything about swimming in the lakes. Yeah, okay, so it's just a food, but that was all the buzz up north. Okay, Ezra, are you back? I know he had another meeting he had to attend. Okay, so why don't we, anybody else know from Ken, do you know if you guys had a report or not?
I don't believe there's anything additional to report from what Commissioner Meyer reported at the last.
Okay, thanks, Ken. So let's move on to the closed session. The future meeting schedule is just talked about, so. Closed session, the commission may convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statutes 19.851G, conferring with legal counsel is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy with respect to Circuit Court Case Number 2024-CV-3109 and Court of Appeals Case 2025-AP-725, City of Verona versus Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Clark. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Freeze. And could you do the Roll call, please, Cassie.
Commissioner Bookland,
Aye.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Freeze, Commissioner Hubble,
Aye.
Commissioner Longkella,
Aye.
Commissioner Lytle,
Aye, with the note that I will, as in the past, recuse myself from the discussion.
Commissioner Pultz,
Aye. Aye.
and Commissioner Meyer. I believe he is still.
Hi, I'm here.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, hi. Welcome back.
Can you hear me okay, Kathy? Just making sure. Can you hear me, Cassie? Just making sure.
Yes, we can hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, I assume this is hers, so I'm.
Yeah.
Who else? What? That did not take on, so. What?
Amanda, are you on there? Ezra, are you there? Is anybody there?
I'm here. I was on mute, but I'm here. Yeah. It looks like we're
Oh.
getting back. We're connected. There's Amanda in the commission room and resource team. So I think we're connected back to the main room. That might be on mute still or something.
Yeah, one thing I noted on the calendar is we're meeting the week of Memorial Day. We skipped the first week of May. I wonder if we could push that up so nobody's missing the week of Memorial Day or Memorial Day week, if you want to call it.
You're talking. Oh, this is all the way out next year.
Yeah,
May 26th. Sure.
Yeah, because we skipped a week, and I wonder if it's better not to skip a week just so better attendance.
Sure. Yeah, that's a question that could come up in future meeting schedule.
Or I could just email her when we get offline or whatever. If I remember that. I'm still kind of sleeping.
I didn't get out to 2026, looking at the 2026 calendar yet, but.
Hello, commissioners. Just the FYI, you are back in the main room, so we're back on recording.
Thank you.
Okay, we back? Okay, so, we had a motion by Commissioner Clark, second by Commissioner Freeze to go back into open session. We did a roll call vote. Beth Bookland had left the meeting before the roll call vote, but all other commissioners, voted aye and on a roll call vote, going back into open session. Okay, and all I have to report is that the commission discussed with legal counsel the current litigation, and leave it at that. So, let's see, any future agenda topics?
Dan has one question for Amanda. On your 2026 calendar, we skipped a week in May because we had 5 weeks. The 5th week is actually the week of Memorial Day, and I don't know what attendance will be that week. I wondered if you wanted to not skip a week in May and then skip the Memorial Day weekend instead.
Normally not.
How
Just
about I look at that?
Yeah, look into it. That's all I'm asking.
Okay.
Because people take a vacation there too, just so we'd have a good attendance by everybody.
Okay, I will look at it.
Okay. So, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I have 2 future agenda topic
Okay.
options. They don't have to be next week, but in the future, a listing of the IT projects that are antiquated, whatever, modernization, the top 5 would help me understand from the conversation that was earlier in the meeting. And the second thing is do we have an thorough insurance review done for the insurance that we carry on multiple different things here, or have we ever had that done? That's just my question from insurance topics in the past.
Okay, thanks. I was marking that down. Any other business? Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Clark, second Commissioner Freeze. Second by Commissioner Freeze to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. See you soon.
Bye.
Take care.